What's up? What's up? What's up, you guys? Happy Friday. It was a happy Friday for me because I didn't have to go to work. I promise you guys, if I got a snow day, that I would get you Salt Lake City and married to now who's at my door? Hold on a second. Because I think I know what that is and I don't want to end the rain. Sorry about that, you guys. It's not what I thought it was, but I'm expecting a package. And I don't it has stopped snowing, but it's still real wet and damp outside, so I don't want it sitting outside. And if I would have forgot, but it wasn't what I thought it was, but it was still a package. So okay, it's just raining for y'all. Yeah. Um. So I got up this morning, went to the gym. I'm proud of myself. I haven't been to the gym in a long time, in a couple of months, actually, if I'm being honest. So I'm trying to get back on my grind. So I went to the gym this morning. And here we are. So let's get into the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. So we're on episode 12. And honestly, this episode really didn't get good to the end, but let me just go through what happened. Okay. So we start off with Brawin. You can tell that the season isn't getting ready to roll. They're going to Greece next week. And then after Greece, the season is over. They did film the reunion. They either filmed the reunion yesterday or Wednesday. And we do have the seating chart if y'all want to talk about it. Remind me at the end if y'all want me to talk about the seating chart. Okay. What? Okay. Sorry about that. So Brawin meets Todd at the airport. And of course, she has on her little blow up like dinosaur situation. Now she said that's how she meets Todd all the time. So, girl, if that's your thing, go with it. I mean, he didn't seem to be bothered one way or the other by it. So that's clearly y'all's little thing that y'all do. Cool. Hey, great. Now, on her way home, she's telling Todd about what happened with her getting involved in what happened on the plane. Now, mind you, Todd told her to stay out of it. Todd said, girl, you weren't on that plane. You ain't had nothing to do with what happened on that plane. You don't know what happened on that plane. Stay out of it. But of course, Brawin, and technically Brawin did stay out of it. She just talked to the people to hear what they had to say. Because I honestly feel like Whitney is overreacted. And I'm going to get to Whitney in a minute. But I honestly feel like, Whitney, you just doing too damn much. But she tells Todd that, what she did sort of get involved in it. And it's a whole thing now. But she said, I do have an idea. I'm getting my citizenship. So I want to have like a Boston Tea Party, which, okay. See, this is where I'm about to go. I'm about to get political for a second. I guess for those of us who look at American history through a certain lens, I guess that's a cute concept. You know what I'm saying? For those of us that want to, celebrate the colonists rebelling against the king, and they threw the tea into the harbor to protest, which led to the American Revolution, and they fought tyranny and won, all the while still having slaves. You see what I'm saying? But I'm gonna let that go. We're gonna roll with the Boston Tea Party. We're gonna roll with the Boston Tea Party. So she said, let's have a spill your tea party. Let's have a spill your own tea party. So she was like, because Todd was like, listen, at this point, all of y'all have done something to the other one. Like, ain't none of y'all's hands clean. So get it all out on the open so maybe y'all can move forward on a clear slate. Honestly, you know, and I know that this isn't going to work, but okay, girl, have your party. Okay, have your party. Hey, cross country cruiser. Hey, boo. So then we see Whitney talking to Justin. So let me be clear about something. I do not have all of the details on what really went wrong with Whitney's business. Full stop. None of us have all of the details. What we know is that last season, she got exposed on TikTok for selling jewelry from what's that Alibaba Ali? What's that bootleg cheap website that's on Instagram where you can buy the stuff real cheap and a lot of people buy it off there and resell it. What's it called, y'all? Y'all know what I'm talking about. But she got exposed for selling this expensive jewelry that people were like, this really, like, you're selling this jewelry for $300 and it's really, you bought it for $20. So, right. And that was wild, right. And then you had the Wild Rose Beauty, which again, what you said was that basically y'all were doing really well. And I think you kind of like we've seen a lot of people, hey, Cyber Diva, kind of like what we've seen a lot of people, well, thank you, my love. The beauty line, right. But then you said that you sort of like got too big for your britches. You said that yourself, Whitney, how y'all were hiring so many people and y'all were kind of like overextending yourself. Now, that's what you said. If it's a lie, you told it, Whitney. You know, you said you did that, but neither here nor there. So I'm not saying that what you said wasn't a factor, because what it sounds like is your husband and some investors bogarted, came in, convinced you to change your business model. You wanted to go and try to get your products into Sephora and Ulta and Walmart and that kind of thing. And they came in and convinced you to do multi-level marketing. Now, what you may not understand with multi-level marketing, that's like Avon, Mary Kay, you know, where you're selling a product and you're the upline and you make money basically by selling a product, but by also building a team. And she was saying that her husband basically had been in that business and she didn't want him in that business, yet they convinced her that this was the right way to go. And she said, y'all basically threw this money in front of me that I felt like I couldn't say no to. And she said the same week that she agreed to change her business model was the same week the people from Sephora called. Now, let me say this. As much as Whitney irritates me, I understand where right. Bedroom Candy is a multi-level marketing. Yes, exactly. And people make money off of it. Let's be clear. You can make good money doing those things. Some people are born salesmen and women, and you can make very good money. But you have to really grind and you have to really work, right? So there's no wrong answer to this. It just didn't work. And I think that Whitney is just as mad at herself as she is at her husband. And what she said was, I never felt like you cared about my business until that moment. And I was so happy that you were now showing some interest that, yeah, I was willing to go along with what you guys were saying because it sounded good and you were throwing this money at me. I think that, yes. Do I think that Whitney is justified in being angry at her husband? To a certain extent, absolutely. Because I'm sure he was pressuring her. I don't feel like he just gave her that information and said, well, you know, you make up your mind, you decide what you want to do. Why don't you meet with Sephora and see if they're offering you a better deal? And let's figure it out. Let's figure out what works best for us. I don't feel like that's how he came at her. I feel like he came at her like this is a once in a lifetime chance. We're going to make money. We're going to make millions. We're going to make it work. Like, I feel like he kind of and I feel like he probably did pressure her. Right. So from that extent, you have every right to be angry at him. But I also think that you're angry at yourself. And this is what a lot of us do. So I'm not saying this with any negative thoughts. I'm not pointing my finger at Whitney because a lot of us do this. You didn't bet on yourself. You didn't bet on yourself. You knew which direction you wanted to take your company. It was just starting to move in that direction where you wanted to take your company, and you second guessed yourself and you allowed yourself to be convinced to do it a way that you didn't necessarily want to do it. And it didn't work. Because let's be clear, if it had worked, you wouldn't be. So I think that you're mad at yourself as well, Whitney, which I get it. And I'm not even, business. Listen, running a business, you make a million decisions a day. So I do feel for her. I hope that they found a way to work through this. I hope that this doesn't end up, because it is affecting their marriage, which I can understand it affecting their marriage. Like it's affecting your finances. So it's going to affect your marriage. So that was an interesting conversation. And then we saw Heather. Her daughter's going off to college. She's the last one. Heather's an empty nester now. Her last daughter is flying the coop. She's going down to Tampa. So one daughter went to Santa Barbara. Her oldest daughter went to University of Santa Barbara, University of California, Santa Barbara. Her middle daughter went to University of Miami. And now this daughter is going to Tampa, University of Tampa, whatever the right language is. So congratulations. Listen, it's no easy feat to raise three, especially daughters, okay? Because we know daughters can take a lot of twists and turns. To raise three daughters and all of them going to college and seem to be doing well. Like I'm sure I'm sure there have been some ups and downs, but overall looks like these are some well-adjusted girls. So congratulations to Heather and congratulations to your daughters, especially the youngest one that just graduated. And girl, pat yourself on the back. Pat yourself on the back. Because you said that you felt like you were a single mother even when you were still married. And I believe it. Because remember, Heather said that even when her and her husband first got divorced, those girls never spent the night with him. He would come over to her house to see the girls, or he would take them out and then bring them back home. So even though your husband may have been there financially, I'm sure he was paying child support and stuff, but you never got a break, And we know she doesn't have the best relationship with her family. So listen, kudos to you, Heather. Heather gets on my nerves, but kudos to you on that one, Heather. Hold on a second, y'all. Oh, yeah. Heather's kids are getting the hell out of Dodge, okay? And I don't blame them. Hello?
Hello?
Was it a package on the thing?
On the porch?
Yeah. Oh, I was I just bought a package in. Oh, okay. I know that's what look, I was just getting ready to tell the people. I said between your Christmas packages and my Christmas packages, it's about to look like a UPS center in here in a minute. So now let's get to the party. First of all, y'all know that this was a sponsored event that none of these women would have dressed up like fucking Martha Washington and Betsy Ross if it wasn't for this show, okay? And Lisa even said, I'm not doing it. I don't even know, like, did they go to a costume store to get these outfits? Like, where did they even get these outfits from? Like, what the heck? But the majority of them were a good sport, and they dressed in character, before the party, we saw Brawin with her mom. Sorry, we had one more scene. We saw Brawin with her mom, and Brawin, which I thought this was a cool thing that Brawin did. Utah passed a law that said that no government building could fly the LGBTQ flag. So she said that she put on her Instagram, any non-government building in Utah that wanted a flag, she would send them one for free. And so her and her mom actually went out and bought the flags, which they went to the sex store to get the flags. So she had her mama up in the sex store, child. And they're sitting there literally mailing out these flags. And I thought that was a great idea. She said, I support the community, and this is something that I wanted to do, to just sort of stand up to what I saw going on, with these things, these rules, laws being passed, or whatever. So I thought that was kudos. Why do you think Brawin's mother's medicated? Why you say that? I will say this. I think what her mother said to her, when her mother said, "You're a good mom and you've done a good job," I really feel like that's all Brawin wanted to hear from her mom. Hey, Cheryl, I really think that's all Brawin wanted to hear from her mom. Because it seems like her mother is always talking about the negative and what's wrong. So, I thought this was a cute scene. That's why I said this episode felt like a wind down. Yeah, I don't know who did them now. Them eyebrows. Those eyebrows were a lot. But this was right. If this had been the first scene where we had met Brawin's mother, I think we would all have a different opinion of her mom. But of course, we got those first couple of scenes first, and now we got this one. But yeah, not she has to be what she drawn up, but y'all are a mess. So that was a cute moment. Okay. Now let's get to this Boston Tea Party of it all, child. So oh shoot. Uh-oh, dang it. I done spilled water all over me. I meant to throw the rest of them leftovers away. As soon as you open up the refrigerator, I can smell them. You ain't smell nothing? I meant to throw them away yesterday. Oh, well. I swear I throw them away. So, like I said, all the ladies showed up in character, except for Lisa, child. So the ladies showed up, and Brawin, she even had wigs for them. And she had this warehouse, and it was designed like they were on a boat. And it was really nice. Brawin, kudos to fully committing to your theme. Okay. I have to give Brawin kudos for that. Even with the food, I mean, nobody is going to go back and eat exactly what the people used to eat back in the 1700s in Boston. Okay. But she had the links. They did eat the links. Okay. Now she had like lobster rolls or something like that. When I went to Boston, that's what we ate. We ate the lobster rolls and stuff. But she had tea, and then she had whiskey, beer would have been a good one with the beer. So the first thing she did was they had the ladies take like a little quiz to see how much American they knew. Now let me rewind at the beginning. First of all, when the ladies were talking, and they were, I guess, trying to see who knew more history than the other one, and that damn Angie gonna tell Lisa recite the Gettysburg Address. The history teacher in me cringed. Baby, the Gettysburg Address was not the American Revolution. The Gettysburg Address was the Civil War 100 years later. I mean, right, Mary said I got my own wig. Okay. But okay, I know that I was probably the only person that bothered because, of course, this is what I do for a living. So I get it that I was the only person that probably went, what? How did the Gettysburg Address get into this? My other issue is when they were asking the ladies these basic history questions, and they asked Meredith, what are the first 10 amendments to the Constitution called? And she didn't know it was called the Bill of Rights. Ma'am, you are a whole attorney. Ain't that like first day of law school 101? Girl, how you don't know that that's called the Bill? Now, they didn't even ask you to recite them. They just said, what are they called? Girl, how you didn't know that? I was like, now, be honest with you, nobody else not knowing the information, it really did not surprise me. But Meredith, excuse me, hey girl. And I know that you're not a practicing attorney at this point, but I just felt like, isn't that just like law school 101 that you know the Constitution? I'm sorry. Maybe it's me, but moving right along. Stephanie said, Lord have mercy. I don't watch the show, but I would have definitely have cringed. President Lincoln hadn't even been born during the Revolution. Okay. I was just like, how did the Gettysburg Address get in this? But anyway, moving right along. So the ladies sit down and Brawin, after they do that, then Brawin says, hey, look, this, I'm here to celebrate my citizenship. And in lieu of the Boston Revolution, they threw things away to build up a better country, yada, yada, yada. So I think at this point, we should all basically put out there what's the worst gossip that we have put out there or we have participated in, and then we can apologize so we can sort of clean the slate and we can move on. So here's the thing. Brittany, I don't remember what Brittany said because I don't think I care enough. But I think Brittany might have said something about talking about people's... I don't know what Brittany said. It wasn't important. Heather admitted that she was gossiping about Brawin's husband farting while he was making out with somebody. Here's the problem I have with this. And I know somebody might be like, really, be you being petty right now? You making a big deal out of nothing. But let me say this. If the purpose of this conversation is for us to clear the air so we can possibly move forward, can you not like, I'm telling you, I don't find it funny. And the fact that Heather was like, oh my gosh, like, you don't think that that's a little funny? No, it's not. Because I just told you it wasn't. Again, if the purpose of this is for us to clear the air, I need you to be respectful of what I'm telling you bothers me. And what I'm saying to you is, thank you for being honest about the fact that you thought it was funny, but don't sit here now and keep making a joke about it because I'm telling you it's not funny to me. And even Brawin's face was like, no. And Lisa was like, Heather was like, come on. Like, you don't think it's a little bit? No. So that bothered me. I don't know who said what, because I don't even care. But then Brawin went to go apologize to Whitney for gossiping and going back to Meredith for what Whitney said. And here's what pissed me off about this moment. All the rest of the ladies could hear what was said, apologize, and they threw it in the ocean, right? They wrote it on the box and they threw it in the water and they were done with it. But not Whitney's ass. Whitney has to turn it into a whole moment. Well, but why would you do that? Like, you're just untrustworthy and you're girl, that's what she said. She said to you that she was sorry because she shouldn't have repeated it. And you want to keep going. See, that I can't do. If the purpose of this exercise is for us to put it all on the table, apologize, and move forward and come to some sort of common ground about what we will and won't do moving forward, then why are we still talking about it? Like, why are you turning this into a whole thing that I've already admitted to you that I did and I was wrong for doing it? Like, I don't like that. I know you said you were wrong, Chuck, but I need you to understand that it really made me mad. And I don't understand why you would do that. And now I feel like I just can't trust you anymore. And I'm never going to say anything to you ever again. And I really thought, it's like, damn, why would I admit and acknowledge it just for us to end up right back here? Oh, I know what it was. Brittany was like, who went back to Jared and told Jared I was flirting with the people on the boat because that led to us breaking up. Brittany, nobody gives a fuck. Okay, you and Jared break up every other day. Y'all break up to make up, to make up, to break up. And Whitney wasn't even wrong because, first of all, Whitney was telling her husband in a positive way, like, yes, I think that Brittany might have finally gotten over Jared because she over here flirting with the people. Now, your husband was the one being messy because he repeated it to Jared's ass. If we really want to be honest, Justin was the one being messy. But Brittany, you were the one that said that you had broken up with him and y'all were on a 30-day fast, which we know nobody believed. So at the end of the day, girl, moving right along. So Whitney pissed me off because here we go again. with this whole thing. And then Whitney gonna turn around and justify what she said. So you're gonna be mad that Brawin repeated it, but you're gonna justify basically alluding to the fact that Meredith is getting high. Girl, make this shit make sense. That she's a drunk and she drink and she's on drugs. Here's what I need you to stop doing, Whitney. You keep saying these were triggers. I grew up in a household like this. Girl, if you can't tell us what it is, then stop talking about it. Because in my mind, those are serious accusations. Like, they're different things. Like, that's a serious accusation to say somebody is an alcoholic and on drugs. And to be honest, Meredith may very well have some sort of an issue. But if you can't say it, let it go. Stop throwing it out there. Stop alluding to it. Stop just putting it out there. If you can't say it definitively, let that thing go. So then Meredith and Whitney get into it. And then they get, because Heather got into it with Meredith because Heather's thing was, you're not going to piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. We absolutely know what happened on that plane. We absolutely know that you was yelling and you were doing all of the things. And then Meredith even tried to say that she didn't yell at Heather. Heather was like, okay, now what you're not going to do is continue to gaslight me. Like, it's one thing to make it, to downplay what you did to Brittany, but what you're not going to do is look me dead in my face and tell me you didn't yell at me when you absolutely yelled at me. And then, of course, they rolled that beautiful bean footage where even Lisa had to admit that Meredith yelled at Heather. So Meredith was like, I don't think, that's not what happened. That's not how I remember it. That's not how I remember it. I don't know why Meredith won't just admit and apologize. I don't know why she won't just admit what happened on that plane and apologize to move forward. Because at this point, it's very obvious, even Lisa has admitted that your behavior was extra. Now, she tried to backpedal off of it and she tried to cover herself up a little bit. But at the end of the day, even she has admitted that your behavior was a little bit off. Because the first thing Lisa did was distance herself from what happened. I didn't do anything, which tells me something happened. Now, do I think that Brittany was maybe, doing a little extra? I cried the whole way. And they said they had to carry her to customs and shit. I mean, do I think that Brittany put a little extra sauce on it? Yeah. But I absolutely believe those women bullied her ass the majority of that plane ride. Do I think from every second that they were on the plane from beginning to end? No. But I think there was probably a strong hour and a half where they was bothering her. And an hour and a half of somebody behind you kicking your seat, talking shit about you, yelling at you, an hour and a half can feel like 4 hours. And that's just real talk. What's up, Happy? It can feel like 4 hours. So at the end of the day, now Heather's pissed off because Heather was like, what you're not going to do is gaslight me into thinking that I didn't see what I saw and hear what I heard. Like, I don't appreciate that. So then that's when Whitney and Meredith gets into it. And when they get into it about her being a drug addict and stuff. So then Meredith going to go and get a box, get a bag full of goodies for everybody. And in that bag was a drug test. And she was like, we could go ahead and take a drug test. It's nothing. And this is when I knew that y'all are stupid. And when I say y'all, I mean Meredith and the people that entertained this. Meredith said, I'll take the drug test. There's nothing that's going to come back except for some alcohol. And and occasionally I take a volume. Girl, do you understand how a drug and alcohol test works? The purpose of a drug and alcohol test is to see if you have drugs and alcohol in your system. And you literally just admitted to having both in your system. So what the fuck is the purpose? All of y'all have been drinking, which means that everybody there would have had a positive test in that moment. Cause hell, y'all was drinking out of a flask, waiting for Brawin to open up the damn door. Heather pulled a flask out her damn bag. Brawin said we got whiskey over there. Y'all been drinking since y'all got there. What the fuck was the purpose of handing out a drug and alcohol test that you are gonna fail your damn self? I was like, what the fuck? Ma'am, there are no brownie points in agreeing to take a test that you're going to tell me you about to fail. I'm sorry, what? Right, Stephanie. What you just said? Stephanie said, I'm listening while working, and I literally looked at my phone like, what did she just say? I said it. That's exactly what I said. And that's what Meredith said. Girl, Meredith said, oh, I know it was for the drama of it all, right? I get that. But I was just like, everybody made a big deal about the fact that they had these drug and alcohol tests. And I was like, they mean nothing. They are absolutely meaningless at this point. Because you literally just told us that you take an occasional volume and you drink. And she's like, I drink occasionally, but you're literally drinking right now. Like y'all are drinking right in front of us. Y'all are literally drinking. And then by you admitting that you occasionally take a volume, well, did you take a volume before you got on the plane? How many drinks did you have on the plane? Because again, that goes back to last week's episode where Mary was saying, I'm really worried about you because I don't know, did you black out or something? Because you literally act like you don't remember something that we were all there to see. And I'm wondering, why don't you remember any of it? I'm like, y'all, baby, that whole scene was a mess. Because I was like, to me, I was just like, epic fail. Epic fail. Because whatever you thought you were proving, you didn't prove, ma'am. Whatever you thought you were proving, you did not prove. It's like epic fucking fail. Anyway, so then they decided that they would come up with some things that they're not going to, like lines that they're not going to cross. And of course, they said they're not going to talk about husbands and children. They're going to break that next week when they get the grease. Somebody going to talk about somebody's husband. Somebody going to talk about somebody's child. Especially the husband's part. Now, the children we might get away with them not talking about the kids, but the husbands, absolutely not. We're not getting away with that. They're going to be talking about them husbands. Anyway, y'all, that was pretty much the episode. This was a slow episode. Like I said, they're getting ready to go to Greece. So I'm sure that's probably at least 3 episodes. And then they may or may not have a final episode. And again, I told you guys they filmed the reunion this week. So let's go through the seating chart for the reunion real quick. So in the first chair, we have Brawin on Andy's right and Lisa on Andy's left. So I found that to be interesting. Yes, honey, I got my candles. Thank you. I did. I sure did. Next, we have Whitney on Andy's right and Meredith on Andy's left. Angie and Meredith should be next to Andy, and Brittany should stay home. Brittany absolutely could stay home. Then we have Angie sitting next to Heather, and across from Angie is Mary. And then at the end of the couch is Brittany and Whitney. Now, here's what I find funny. Whitney, you go through all that trouble to stir up all that shit, and you are at the end of the couch with Brittany. You do all this bullshit to try to stir the pot, and you are at the end of the couch with Brittany ass. See what I'm saying? Lisa must have the contract clause because she sits by Andy at the reunion. This year she deserves it. This year Lisa deserves that seat. One, because of all of the conflicts at the beginning of the season as it related to her lawsuits, her and Brawin getting into it, her and Heather have gotten into it this season. She actually deserves first chair this season, I believe. I would not have been upset. I feel like we could have flipped. And Brawin actually has earned her first chair, honestly. Between what's going on with Todd, her conflicts with Lisa, and now her conflict with Meredith. Like, I don't feel like they necessarily got this wrong. I wouldn't have been upset if they had flipped Brawin for, like, I wouldn't have been upset if it had been Meredith, Lisa, Brawin, or hell, even Angie. But I don't think they got it wrong. There's about an 80 to 85% part of me that believes that we're gonna see some footage from the plane. Because I believe there is footage from the plane. But I also believe that because the majority of that first class plane was production, I believe Bravo has all of the footage. And that's why none of it leaked. I believe Bravo took that footage before they got off that fucking plane. I believe Bravo was like, absolutely not. And because everybody that was in first class worked for Bravo, I think that's why nothing really leaked, if I'm being honest. I don't think it's because nothing happened, because I firmly believe something happened. I firmly believe something happened on that plane. So, but I think we're going to get that footage at the reunion. I really do. I really think. And that's another reason why I think the seating arrangement is the way it is, with Lisa and Meredith right there next. You know, they're sitting next to each other by Andy. I want footage from that Married documentary. Well, it's dropping soon, honey. And I'm not sure how I feel about it. That's why I want to wait and see the documentary, because I don't know how I feel about it yet. I still don't know how I feel about it. But anyway, y'all, that's all that was this episode. I set Married to Medicine for 3:15, I think, but we may come back a little bit sooner because it's only 2:30. So I already have it set up and everything. So I may change it. So just make sure your notification is set. I may change it in like the next 15 minutes. Because I might as well go ahead and knock them out. Knock them out the box, Rick. Yeah. All right. I'll talk to y'all later. And that's why, and El Michelle, that's why I said I'm not sure how I feel about the documentary, because I really, and when the show first came on, I did sort of do some research and all that kind of stuff. Not research, but read articles and stuff like that. So I understand where some of this cult stuff is coming from, but I really want to see the documentary and see how much of this is something that we just see in Black churches versus some real shit. You know what I mean? But we're going to find out in a couple of weeks. The documentary is coming out on New Year's Day. So we have less than a month, and, we're going to watch it and see what it is. I still haven't watched Heather. Maybe I watched that this weekend. The one she did on the Mormon church. So all right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.